Hello, Jessamine. So, what is on your mind? What's the latest with you?
Hey Meg, I'm doing okay. I got my vaccine booster this weekend,
Woohoo!
and thank God that I am not in the medical profession as I watched nurses hold down screaming children and give them their shots. It was in a
Wow,
high school gym, and we were there for almost 2 hours in line waiting for shots. And my God, those kids screamed so much, I started crying.
oh,
So I thought,
heartbreaking.
Lord, thank God I am just not a nurse. And bless the
Yeah,
people who are willing to do this crap because I could not handle it at all.
totally, totally. And good little brave kids going out there,
Oh
even
my
though it's tough.
God. It was rough. It was rough. And how about you? What's new? What's going on?
Uh, well, not on the topic of UX at all, but also healthcare related. Is I spent total my total time on phone calls with my health insurance over the last 2 weeks has been 2 hours, 2.5
Ooh,
hours.
ooh.
And now I woke up this morning, many days after I had called them, like with the on hold music in my head. Like I'm still singing it. That's
Good
how
on
much
hold
it's
music.
like, no, it's
Oh
terrible.
no.
It's so bad. It's just like
That's the
three,
worst.
it's like three chords that like, or I don't know what chords are,
Oh,
but it's just like
yes.
three things that like repeat over and over again. And I was like was like this walking around my house, like singing them out loud. And I was like, what is
No.
this song? And then I was like, this wave of just like horror of like, that's how bad it like now I have all these like memories of my health
Ugh.
insurance on hold music. But
Were you on hold for two
no,
hours or were you like just on the phone for 2 hours?
on the phone for 2 hours. Both times it took me like one time it took 30 minutes to get to
Come
somebody, that the
on.
other time it took probably like, somewhere between 15 to 20. Yeah.
They got to
Super
do a
awesome.
callback thing. Like I love
You
when a
would
company's
think.
like, "Hey, we're just
Yeah.
too busy right now. We'll call you back. Maybe it'll be
What a great
today, maybe
experience.
tomorrow."
What a novel idea. What a
Right.
standard. What a baseline right now
Yeah.
for customer service to have that
Mm-hmm.
feature. But
Right.
guess what? Not my health insurance.
Boo.
So super
Boo.
fun.
That's rough.
Anyway, so we clearly both have non UX and health related stories this
Mm-hmm.
week. Anything going on from a UX perspective or
From a UX
professional perspective?
professional perspective, I mean, I would say this week has been all about numbers for me, which
Mm,
is definitely not my
okay.
comfort zone, but there's definitely like a numbers aspect to this job. You can make it a numbers thing, I think. And I'm trying to wade into those waters and really get an understanding of like usage and metrics
Mm,
and stuff like that. And I really could use like a crash course, honestly. I think I'm trying to self-educate basically and like
hmm
ramp myself up. And I there's probably stuff going on around me that I don't see, but I am trying to just really get better at this because for so long it's been something I just didn't really get that into. And
hmm
I don't really consider myself like a quant person, but I think there's some value there. I think there's some value there. I just need to learn more about it. So I could use a book or a class or something like that, I think. Yeah.
So are you talking mostly about like user data? Like you're
Yeah,
looking at large data sets of user behavior?
pretty much. I think that the thing is like the numbers are there. It's
Hmm
more of like being able to interpret them and then get some insight out of it, being able to read
Yeah.
it. That's the thing. It's like its own language. And then being able to like manipulate it, because that's the other part that I'm not super savvy at. Like I can figure out how to run a report or something like that. But then
hmm
I've talked to some people who are like, well, you could look at it this way, or you could look at it that way, or you could slice it here or
hmm
slice it there. And I'm like, whoa, never even occurred to me to do that. I just kind of thought there's one way to read this and that's it. But that's not true. There's lots. You can
mm
really, you can squeeze and massage numbers all kinds of ways.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good. It's good to be able to do that because while, we might be lucky enough to be in a place where you have somebody who's kind of like serving as an interpreter of that data, you know, it's still a good idea to like have your own eyes on it, have
Mm-hmm.
have a chance to kind of like make sense of it yourself. If it's always
Mm-hmm.
going through a lens, or always going through kind of like a filter, like, yeah, I don't know. I would have trouble always, doing that all the time.
Right.
Yeah. And
I
funny you
know.
should say like you're feeling like you like need a class, or need like, to dive deep more into it. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but like there are days when I feel like all I'm doing is like taking my own AP course. I'm all by myself. I'm taking an AP course in something that's complicated and difficult. And that's what I'm doing. Like that's all. I'm
Yep.
just basically studying the material, as
Yep.
opposed to, I think what people typically think of our jobs as like making something pretty in XD, or making something pretty
Mm,
in Figma, or or Sketch or whatever.
yeah. Yeah. Newsflash, those tools don't make things pretty. They just make things. Well, listen, everybody, I want to say hello to our listeners. Welcome to Surviving UX. This is the place where you can let your hair down and talk about the real ups and downs of being a UX designer. So this week, this is what we've got in store for you. We're going to answer a career question from our listeners. We're going to cover a couple of end of year topics as we start winding down and heading into the holiday season. But first, I do want to give a quick disclaimer. This program does not disclose any confidential information about any company or employee. It's for entertainment purposes only.
Thank you, Jasmine, for reminding us of all of that goodness. So, but before we get to that, I wanted to mention about a book I'm reading, because I wanted to get
Ooh,
your take
okay.
on it. So,
Kudos
and
for having
whether,
time to read books.
yeah, I figured it's like, it's luxury, that's for sure. I should definitely call that out. And I will also say, because there are some people out there who really appreciate a distinction. I listen to books. I do not read them from a
Mm,
physical text perspective. But
okay.
I still consider that reading. That's not the hot top. That's not the hot take I want you to discuss. But
All right.
just in case
No
anybody's
judgment.
curious,
No judgment here.
I am an avid audiobook listener.
Cool,
So,
cool.
yeah, so the book is called, well, first of all, I just want to know if you've heard of it. It's called Think Again by Adam Grant. You heard of it?
Mm, no, I have not heard of it. I have not. But I have heard that name Adam Grant. That sounds familiar to me. But
So,
other than that, I have no idea.
so the book is about, well, I guess it was kind of like, it's been something, it's newish. I want to say like 2020, or sorry, wait, what year are we in? 2021. Yeah. It's either
I have
2020 or
to do that so
2021.
too often. I have asked myself this week alone, what year is this? Like at least twice.
And it's like the last month of the year, right? Which
Right.
actually we'll talk a little
I'm
bit more about
finally
that.
going to learn the year and then it's going to change it up.
So anyway, it's a relatively newish book. So I've seen it like come up on like, hey, like, like somebody in UX will like post like, hey, these are like the books I recently read, or like,
Hmm.
like good new books to read if you're in like product development, or tech,
Okay.
like the tech sector or whatever. So I picked up this book, and I will say I'm only in like a couple of chapters in, so I haven't finished it. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up before I finished it and gave all my thoughts on it is that I'm having a really hard time uh, wanting to like get take up another chapter when I go for a walk or
Mm.
whatever. And so the premise of the book is that people get stuck in their mindsets and they don't reevaluate, and that causes people to miss opportunities with regard to like
Oh
market
man.
opportunities, and or just like like some examples that you've like probably already heard of are
Gosh.
things like like Steve Jobs actually didn't want to get into the phone business.
Interesting.
That was a rethinking. And then there was another example of phones, which was like the BlackBerry guy. I don't know his name, but the BlackBerry guy was like, hey man, no, we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing, and we're not gonna put like a browser on our phone. And so that was an example of like
Ooh,
not being able to think again. My
ooh,
my my big dilemma though is like, as a person who I would say generates a lot of doubt naturally about like about pretty
yeah.
much everything I do, like whether or not like this is right, whether or not I should be working on this or that, or like how I should invest.
Oh,
Like, as a person who I feel like second guesses almost everything, I listen to
yeah.
this book and I'm just like, oh my God, like I am like in this state
Now,
of like
now nothing is
paralysis.
sure.
Right.
You're a
Is my is
natural
my
questioner, right? You're a natural questioner.
is my rethinking enough? Should I be rethinking my rethinking? Um,
Man. Well, I think so let me ask you this. What made this book jump off the shelf at you? What made you pick this up?
uh, honestly, because I just saw it like being posted about, and I was like, well, maybe I should like read something that's topical, topical, like more recent, especially if people are going to be like, I don't know, I thought it was going to be like a great like book that I would get a lot out of,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Okay.
wonder if like there are certain personality types that 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 reading this book causes a lot of like mental
Distress.
anguish and distress. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because it's like, hey, you think you're sure of yourself? You think you got it on lock? Guess what? You don't know what you're doing. Because I mean, those examples of like spectacular failure from on high. I mean, think
Mhm.
about like that BlackBerry example. People, there was a time when people just were so addicted. They were called crackberries, right? And people would
Mhm.
be under the table at meetings, messaging each other and tapping away back when phones had buttons. And it was just
Mhm.
like you couldn't pry these things out of people's hands. And then, clearly whoever brought that to the market, like they got there probably with some really strong opinions, but then those opinions sort of like turned on them probably and then, hampered them from moving forward or whatever. So
Mhm.
it's
And
so
hindsight
true
is
because,
2020. You
yeah,
can bring up these examples, no problem, when you're looking back at, product development decisions. But I think it's hard to know in the moment, like, should we really be spending more time like thinking through, or pivoting or adjusting, or I don't know. And I just think this goes back to some of our other conversations about like how much responsibility is it on the UX person specifically to be doing, these things.
to
Like
be
I have
questioning and
deadlines.
right,
Yeah. I have deadlines. Projects have release dates. I didn't make those. I didn't come up with
right.
them. And it's I think it puts you kind of in a hard spot if that's the ask. However, I will say that I do like the idea of being reminded that naturally human beings kind of get these tenets or core beliefs that they kind of operate by, and it is good to like think back and think on them, um
Right.
because of inherent bias and things like that. I actually went to another, or I was listening to another author. um his name is, I believe, David Dylan Thomas. I will put it in the notes if I am wrong about that.
Hmm.
And his topic is on bias, and uh yeah, some of the stuff overlaps and touches on it, but and I think that's probably the most interesting part of the Think Again book, is just like on these bigger things, things about how maybe you have learned biases around like race or gender, or age,
Oh yeah.
or anything like that. Like it's it is good to think again on those, so that you're being more inclusive, so that you're not building the
Yeah.
bad the bad stuff. um
Yeah.
yeah.
So true. I mean, I never really thought much about bias until a couple years ago when it started becoming like more of a hot topic.
Hmm.
And you'd go into a training or something and they'd say, everyone has bias. Everyone has bias. You just cannot, we're wired that way. It's just
Hmm.
naturally human to have bias. And I just truly didn't believe that I did have it for a long time. And then now I really do see that I do. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I am biased. However, is some bias acceptable or not? Like, I don't usually have bias like when it comes to say like some sort of demographic necessarily, but sometimes my bias will come through in like these weird moments. It'll be sometimes it'll be like skill level, or
Hmm.
it'll be like manners. Like if
Hmm.
someone
Hmm.
has manners, great. Like like even if you're wrong, we're cool. But if you don't
Hmm.
have manners, I pretty much hate you. And there's some places where like people just don't have the same kind of set of manners. Like there's just some parts of the country where manners are not really part of the culture. And when you talk to someone who does not have manners, I'm just like, wow, like I can't stand you. And I think like that's something I have to kind of overcome. And like I've had to overcome and like allow conversations and communication to be more like transactional. Like, here's what I
Hmm.
need, here's what you need to do. Okay, see you later. And like without like a lot of pleasantries, but I'm super conscious of manners if people have them or don't. And and that's like I think one of my biases. What
Yeah,
about you?
one of mine, that that I'm certainly willing to admit. I know I have many others, and I'm trying to be, more cognizant and more aware, and learn more. And I'm certain there are ones I'm not aware of. But the one that gets me, and just like, uh, catches me with such like sadness, is immigration status. There's so many, people you work with in tech that do not have the same immigration status as you, and it changes
Mm-hmm.
everything. It really does. It changes everything. And I mean that's kind of at the high, or in the high tech end, and then of course, um, in certain places of the country, or just anywhere really in the country, you're going to have people with, different immigration status, and it's a very hot topic. And but
Yeah.
yeah, so that one
I
always,
cannot
as
I
a
yeah, the
it,
stress that people go through, I had no appreciation for until maybe a couple years ago when I had some close friends who were kind of going through some stuff with our last administration. And
yeah,
they suddenly were like their lives were like upended out of the blue.
absolutely,
And
yeah,
I just was like, holy crap, like I like life is hard enough. And then all of a
wow,
sudden you're just worried about your visa. Like, ooh, I just can't. Or like somebody will say like, hey, I just got my green card, or hey, I just got my citizenship. And I'm like, oh, like, God, like that's like just the last thing on my mind right now. Like I can't even imagine trying to handle all of the crap life throws at you and then also trying to figure out like your paperwork, your
right,
status. Like I just think, oof, so
yeah,
awful. Well, anyway,
well,
think
yeah,
in terms of reflection, I think this is a good segue. We want to talk about our end of year UX rituals because we are kind of cruising into the holidays, and people are going to be taking time off, and those projects, people want to wrap them up, close them out, trim off all the loose ends.
hmm.
And so I wanted to ask you, Meg, about one topic that is kind of like a big pain in the butt at the end of every year, and that is project cleanup, project file cleanup. So every designer's got their own special system for handling their projects and their files and things like that. So what is one of the worst project file organizations that you have ever seen, Meg? What has really shocked you?
um, well, okay, this is the first thought that comes to mind. Is I have a way of doing things, which is not terribly interesting. I typically do have like a folder for the year, and then just the next level down is my projects for that year.
Okay.
And then if the project spans, just the arbitrary date of January 1st, like I'll either make a call of hey, maybe I can like create a new folder in the new thing, or maybe I'll just use the folder, of when that project started. It's usually the latter. I usually just continue to use the folder because over time that project should wrap up. And then also, it's kind of funny if you are working on a project in 2021 that's in the 2019 folder, you know how long you've been working on it. So anyway, my file structure is like really simple. What I think is very challenging and very interesting is how these how our design tools like Figma and Sketch and XD and others are now so much more collaborative based that ownership is a little bit murky. And so you can't
Mm-hmm.
really have the same level of control over your file management that maybe you once could. Or maybe you make copies and then you don't know which version is like the most up
Oh,
to
Lord.
date. But yeah, no, I think one thing that as a designer who's been doing this since the time of non-real-time collaboration design files, um, that like I feel like that's kind of our biggest challenge right now is it's not making it easier to find the files or keep track of them or keep them in order because then all of us have to agree on what the file structure is going to be like, and
Uh-huh.
that takes some sort of coordination effort, and I don't see that happening. uh yeah, so what about you,
Realistically. So I'm guilty on both ends. So number one is I usually can scrabble everything together in a file folder. However, once you open that file folder, like all bets are off, and any old flotsam and jetsam can go into the file folder, and I will not organize it. I just will not because I've already done the work, and that means creating one folder, one top level folder with one name. And in the past, I have worked with teams that had a really strict like system for folders and subfolders. It did include the year, which I'm like, no, because like the problem that you just described, some projects span years. So why do that to yourself? And then they wanted things in, archive projects, active projects, design files, research files, notes, screenshots, like, so many files and subfiles. And I think that's all great if you need it. But if you don't,
Mhm,
dictating that every project be organized that way is a lot of overhead. And so I
totally.
just simply refuse to adopt and I just try to get away with it without doing the work. However, that all being said, if I inherit your project and I open up your project file and it's a garbage can, I hate you too. So I hate being told what to do and I hate messy project files. So pretty much hate it all. But
Yeah. But is the
yeah, I
job
definitely, yeah.
supposed to be like the overhead of date like file management? Is that what our job is? Like I see your point on the overhead side of things. Like I hate that stuff. Um yeah, I hate that kind
I
of
don't
like
know. I kind of feel like I think as I get older, I'm getting a little more strict with this than I have been in the past, but
mhm,
I definitely like I I I don't really think it's anybody's business what your files look like as long as like the work that you need to deliver gets delivered. Who
mhm,
needs to see what's under the covers? I mean, but that being said, again, if you have to do a handoff, you better clean that shit up because
yeah,
I've worked with so many designers who do like multiple versions of their files and I get it, like you're trying to back it up, but then when you're like, well, which one is it? Is it this one
mhm,
or that one? What are these other ones doing here? I'm definitely a save over, not a save as. I don't like to
mhm,
have multiple files. I like to have one file that's clean and it's the latest and greatest. And I don't do my own like history. I let the software do the history part for me, like the version control.
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I think is very real about our jobs that you just that you kind of mentioned in passing there is that file for screenshots. Like, why is so much of our job just taking screenshots? Like every
Screenshots.
project I
Oh,
have, I probably have a subfolder that's like just screenshots, and it's always full. It's always full. Like it's always full of
yeah.
screenshots I've
I
taken of
mean,
like
I
reference
probably
material or
take,
like yeah.
yeah. like 20, I would say I take at least 20 to 30 screenshots every single day.
Yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
working off screenshots. I'm screenshotting. If I'm talking to you on Slack, I'm screenshotting something and sending it to you. I used to save every screenshot, and now I
Mhm.
don't do that anymore. I disabled that setting because I had so much ridiculous terabytes of screenshots. It was just ridiculous. My computer
I
was like trying to smoke. So I was like, all right. But
maybe
yeah,
that's what's wrong with my computer.
yeah. Clean out that one file and it's like a new computer. All right, cool. Well, listen, let's move
Yeah,
on to
yeah.
our listener
Listener question.
question. Yes,
All
go
right.
for it.
So our a UX designer writes in and says, is being a UX designer sustainable long term? Do designers typically burn out? What do you think?
I do not think being a UX designer is sustainable long term, and I do think designers typically burn out. I do think that that is very much the reality. And there's a reason why people who get into the leadership roles aren't pushing pixels anymore and, slinging mocks, is because it is extremely tedious. It's really hard work. You can't please everybody. And, people want to get out of it as quickly as possible, honestly, sometimes. So they get into these other roles, you know,
Mhm.
that's my take. What about you?
Where do you see people going?
Oh, I
What are
mean,
some examples?
that's the thing. I think design is one of those careers where you can kind of, like we talked to Brianna last week, like she got into ops,
Hmm,
and
hmm,
some people get into the ops side, they get into the leadership side, the management side. I think some people
hmm.
drift over into like kind of writing. And actually that really appeals to me,
Hmm.
to be honest with you, the writing side. I enjoy that part a lot. Um, and then there's sort of like the very like few who like rise through the ranks and get, into other echelons of like
Mhm,
either design leadership or some other type of business leadership. I do think there's a lot of designers who kind of get into project management too. Like
mhm,
maybe because the design piece of it isn't so much for them, but
mhm,
they can make decisions and like be opinionated, which is super important for PMs. So I think that's one another avenue. I've considered that myself. I don't think
mhm,
it would be a lot of work for me, I think, to get into that though. It would be a straight up career change where I would need like actual retraining. I
mhm.
wouldn't, as much as I think I could just step into that role, I don't know that I could without at least getting
Yeah.
some kind of class or something.
I have the overconfidence to think that I could step into that role because I like being the person who gets to say what we work on,
Mm-hmm.
which I've actually had that opportunity a couple of times, mostly because the PM on my project like leaves the company and they're like, we don't know what we're gonna do. And so for a while, like I'm the one like organizing the backlog and bringing things to the top. Um, and then I've kind of had a more formal stint at that too. But I think I have the overconfidence to think that I would be good at it. But
Yeah.
because I like that part of it. But
Yeah.
I don't like the responsibility. I don't like when it comes back and something goes wrong in a release, and then you have to kind of like be the one to like carry that on your back
Mm-hmm.
and say like, yeah, like here's like here's what we're going to do. I'd rather be the designer to be like, I saw this coming. I saw this coming from a mile away. We released crap.
Mm,
um so yeah, so
funny.
I don't
It's
know.
funny you
And
say that
you're
because I
right.
always feel like it comes back on UX. It doesn't go back on the PM. I feel like it always comes back on the designer, but that's probably just my own perception.
I think in turn, like within the team, it that certainly can happen. I've certainly experienced that. I think more like like when there has to be some sort of like more public or kind of like outside of the team, but still internally, like here's what happened. Here's what we're gonna do to fix it. Here's the triage, like that kind of stuff. Like I don't know. I'm not
I
I'm
haven't
not
heard
up
that
for
word in a long time. Triage. Gosh,
triage.
triage.
um I feel like things don't go wrong enough where you are. Um, but I will say that I think like, and I think the reason I don't like that part of the job is because there is stuff that good PMs bring to the table that I don't think I would be super great at. And then I do see some people who've had design backgrounds who've moved into product, and a lot of well, I would say not all, but in many times, it is easier to work with them because they have understanding of what we do because they've done it. Um,
Right.
so that does help. I do like working with people who've kind of crossed over into a different part of the product design pipeline because then they have
They're
kind of,
cross-trained. Yes.
yeah,
They're more
yeah.
empathetic. That's so true. I definitely appreciate that. I definitely, though, I would say that I have been on sort of a narrow track for a really long time. I
Hmm.
mean, the burnout side of UX, I do think that that is absolutely a big part of being a designer is burnout and coping with burnout and sort of working past it and
Hmm.
knowing how to like handle burning out. And I have definitely burned out multiple times. And I would say that at this point in my life, I actually can see it coming. I can smell it
Hmm.
coming. I know it's on the way. I know the feelings that I have
Hmm.
because I've experienced it so many times. And so I have gotten better at like, okay, when I'm tossing and turning at night, or when I'm like super agitated and I'm trying to do something else, like drive a car or, have a meal with my family or whatever. Like to me, that's when I'm like, okay, I refuse. Like I start to kind of like slam down like a wall. And I'm like, I won't let this kid, I won't get in this car and drive away. Like I won't get on board with these feelings. I'm gonna fight
Hmm.
them. Like I'm gonna find a way to fight them. Either that means like, hey, like this situation sucks, this person sucks, maybe I suck. That may all be true, but I'm not going to panic. I refuse to panic. I think that's been the biggest muscle I've had to like develop
Hmm.
to like fight the burnout is like I refuse to panic. I shall not panic no matter what's going down. Because then if you panic, then everything sucks. It doesn't matter how big or small, you know, whatever's
Hmm.
happening is happening. But
Yeah, and they're
yeah.
they're I mean, what's the panic gonna buy you? It's not gonna it's not gonna make the project any better. It's not gonna make the people change or the decisions that they've made reverse.
I
So.
absolutely love it when I'm working with an engineer and someone is like, oh, this thing is broken. There's this issue. This thing is crashing. And they're like, oh, yes, there's an issue there. We're working on it. Or it's a known issue. Yes, it's happening. And I'm like, it's like Teflon. It's like someone threw hot grease and they just let it roll off and they just didn't even respond. And I admire that so much that they don't
Mhm.
get flustered. They don't get ruffled. They acknowledge it. It's not that they're not dismissing it, right? It's more
Yeah.
just like they acknowledge it and they're like, we can handle that.
I
It's
wonder,
like
I've had that experience too with engineers. I wonder if they like have special like
special
that's
powers.
that's yeah, special powers. Like it's interesting you say that because I have not thought that was something that like maybe was kind of particular to their role. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've definitely been like, or somebody else has been like, oh my god, this thing's on fire, and then the response is, no, no issue. We're working on it.
Yeah.
Emoji,
Yep.
emoji. Like,
Yes. I mean, this is another bias that I have is I really like working with older people because they just don't panic as much. They've seen it all. They're very seasoned.
mhm,
And I've always just been in awe of them because it is kind of rare in tech, it depends on where you are, but to be working with people who are a little bit older and have been through it before. And like, I just really enjoy that. I really enjoy that
mhm.
type of personality. I hope to get there someday myself.
Well, do you think we answered the question?
No, I'm sure this person's like, this is worthless. That's okay. That's why we're here. Well, friends, that brings us to the end of our show today. I would love to hear your end of year UX rituals and UX career questions. Please share the shit show that you're surviving. We will always keep your questions anonymous and confidential if you share them with us. We would love to talk about it on the show. So drop us a line at survivingux@gmail.com. All right, thanks for listening.
Surviving UX is edited by me, Meg Kramer. Our theme music is, among other things, the on-hold music for Cisco phones, which is Opus Number 1 by Tim Carlton and Derek Deal. And as on-hold music goes, it's pretty great, especially compared to some of the others out there. Thanks to my co-host, Jessamine Edwards, and thanks to you for listening. Hang in there until next time.